Green Cooling scores with the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show.
Well, good evening and welcome. It's another episode of the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show. My name's Dave Parkinson, joined as ever by Steve Beech. How are you doing, Steve? It's a massive, massive weekend ahead for us. The National Conference League is finally here. Are you excited?
I'll tell you what, Dave, absolutely. Been waiting for this. Obviously, the two Challenge Cup games that we've done commentary has sort of whetted the appetite, and in between them finishing and just sort of like building up and just, sort of getting the different interviews, etc. It's good to see that the league's back, and obviously we've got plenty to talk about today. Obviously, from the BARLA National Cup results over the weekend, two interviews from Bradd Crellin and Ryan Steen, plus our fixtures preview. It's another jam-packed show.
Certainly is, yeah. So let's start, first of all, with the BARLA National Cup. And what we'll do, first of all, is run through the results of that. So please talk amongst yourself while I just go and load that up. It's on another page.
Switch the pages over.
There you go. Right, okay. So it was round one at the weekend, wasn't it? And these are the results. Pilkington Rex 44, Keighley Albion 20, Wath Brow Hornets 18, Driglington 0, Normanton Knights 12, Woolston Rovers 14, Upton 18, West Norton Lions 22, West Bank Bears 0, Wigan St Jude's 36, Lee East 32, Crossfields 30, Blackbrook 12, West Hull 50, Hindley Stags 12, Siddle 10, Eastmoor Dragons 0, Kippax Welfare 52, Fryston Warriors 10, Charleston Rovers 20, Fatto Heath Crusaders 52, Hurstfinch 0, and Featherstone Lions 16, Oral St James 24. Where do you want to start?
There's a few in there, Dave. A few surprises. I think first and foremost, I think Keighley Albion put up a good performance in Pilks Rex. Obviously, they're travelling down to over to Pilks Rex, 44-20. I think that'll stand them in good stead, sort of moving forward.
Yeah, I read a little bit about this game, to be honest, and Pilks had a tremendous start to the game and a tremendous finish, and the middle section was actually pretty level between the two, but ultimately Pilks Rex had already put a lot of the points on. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that they've already shown, given the previous friendly result and this result, that they're going to hold their own, aren't they, in Division 3 this season? And yeah, that's tremendous, that.
It's good to keep an eye on that. The other one of the few that were really, really close, Normanton Knights 12, Woolston Rovers 14.
Yeah, that probably went with the form book, didn't it? I know we always say, and it often gets said about the graveyard.
That's the one.
Which has proven a graveyard for many a side, but Woolston just having the edge in that one and getting over the line, which I'm sure will really, really please Liam Lawton that he's been able to do that. And again, it just sort of hardens them up as well, doesn't it? But I suppose, if anything, at this time of the season, just a week out or a couple of weeks out from the start of your league fixtures, you could do with close encounters, couldn't you, of the rugby league kind?
Yeah, certainly. In this competition, obviously, we talk about teams who normally wouldn't come against each other meeting, and that's also evident with Upton against West Norton Lions. Upton 18, West Norton Lions 22.
Yeah, sounds like a really good game, this one, doesn't it? And obviously West Norton Lions, brand new to the Premier Division of the North West Men's League this season. And I know that longer term they've got ambitions to try and push towards the National Conference League. And I'm not sure whether they're there yet as a club. But I'm interested to kind of like see how they go over the course of the season, and as we've sort of commented in the past when we've done this show, Upton usually really, really competitive at home, aren't they?
They certainly are. Another one there, basically an NCL game. Lee East 32, Crossfields 30.
Yeah, some would look at this as a real surprise. Crossfields Division 1 of the National Conference League, Lee East in Division 3. I'm going to come at it from a slightly different angle, though. Crossfields had a man sent off just before half time. And Lee East have a player playing for them at the moment who not that long ago was in Super League, a lad called Craig Millom, who came through Wigan's academy system. I think he was part of the League 2021 Super League squad. But it's a decent result that for Lee East. It is. It's one that makes you kind of like sit up and take notice. And I'm sure that Martin Roden will be hoping he can find that sort of form this season with East, because they sort of flattered to deceive a little bit last season. They started off really, really well. Obviously, they've got lads like Kieran Prescott there, who I spent a lot of time in his company, and I know what attributes he brings to it.
Quite dynamic, can he, at times? Yeah.
They've got lads like Conor Graney playing in the front row, who again, you look at him and you think, oh, we're going to be okay, really, going up against him. But he's one of the most effective prop forwards that there is across the National Conference League. So they have got some decent players. I've mentioned 3 there, and they've got a couple of other lads that have pushed up from their under 18s. I would be disappointed if I didn't see Lee East push forward to go in deep in this particular competition.
Yeah.
And I'd be a little bit disappointed if I didn't see Lee East around the playoff positions this year in the National Conference League. Perhaps that's already stepping over the boundary of what we're going to be talking about later, but it's a decent result that against Crossfield.
Yeah, and out of the whole of the results, the one that sort of jumped out massively at me, because it's one that we discussed last week, with it being a local derby, Tatweeth Crusaders against Hurst Finch. I thought this could be a tighter for, dearie me, Tatweeth Crusaders 52, Hurst Finch 0.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the final score of this one. I'd seen what I thought was a final score, but it turned out it was a half-time score, so I think it was 24-0 that I'd seen, because I almost smiled to myself and thought, it's 24-0. Yeah. As we know with some of the call-offs, shall we say,
that's right,
games where there's no result and it ends up being 24-0. And I just thought, I wonder whether they've actually kicked off there, or whether that's gone ahead. And it turns out that they had done, and I believe Kaisiani had a really big influence on that game. So as you mentioned, a hat trick, and if that's the sort of form that he's going to be bringing to the National Conference League, long may that continue.
Yeah, I'm finally probably one of the big scouts to a certain degree. Featherstone Lions 16, Oral St James 24.
Yeah, I suppose if you look at where those two clubs are, you've got an Oral St James side that has been quite stable over a number of years. Okay, they have lost. I'm not saying that they've not lost players, because they have done, but they've been quite a stable club, haven't they? Featherstone Lions, we all know that they were coming back into the National Conference last season, and they had a losing season. Let's be honest, So for me, that shows about how much work they're doing, but how much work they've still got to do to turn that club around.
Yeah.
I will say that is an outstanding result, and as you say, if you look at levels, you're looking at that and you're thinking, that's quite an eye-catching result, that, isn't it? But we must remember, Oral St James got to the final of this comp last season. Yeah,
and just going back to the match we were on about before, and the guy we were talking about there, Kaisiani, he was an Oral St James player last season.
Certainly was,
a big loss, so that makes that, I think, even more impressive. But they just seem to churn it out, don't they, Oral St James? They sort of have a good conveyor belt of players that can go in there from, and 99%, if I'm not wrong, are homegrown players.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're a good club, aren't they? They're a really good club, and they always are spoken about really fondly and really well around rugby league circles. I know that they were hosting one of the England Community Lions trials at the weekend as well.
Yeah,
so they're always a forward-thinking club, and they will always thrive in the league that they're in, you know, and I just think with the way that is set up, and as you mentioned, they are a strong club, aren't they? They're a really, really strong club. One of the fixtures that I want to mention is Wigan at St Jude's win at West Bank Bears. Thought you'd like this because Declan Parkinson scored a try. Not the Parkinson not our Connor.
There are that many Parkinsons knocking about. You know, I've had this before.
Not our Connor. Dante Morley-Samuels also got over the try line. We've mentioned him in the past. Adam Holt also got over the try line, who's a scrum half. And this was the bit that I was waiting of. Danny Cassidy's back. So he's been playing rugby union in the close season for Wigan.
Yeah.
And he's gone back to rugby league. He's kicked 4 goals in his first game.
Why does that not surprise me in the slightest? I mean, the man's just a machine, absolute machine. And like last season, I will be keeping my eye on him because he's a great player to watch. Great player to watch.
Can't believe you not mentioned Hindley beating Siddle as well. But one thing that I will say is that when I saw the team sheets, and not to take anything away, but it was a similar sort of side to the one that we saw. So it was a lot of the younger players and the second team lads at Siddle. But that's a notable result, that
it is. And strangely enough, over the weekend, Matty Peet of Wigan was asked by a reporter, because obviously we're in Las Vegas, have you been in any more crazier place than this? And with a pause, he did then say, have you ever been to Hindley?
I interviewed him once, so it was just Matty Peet, and this was for like an event that happened at Hindley.
Yeah.
And I got to interview him, and he spoke really, really highly about the place. Right, so the second round has already been drawn. These will take place over the Easter weekend. So this is Easter Saturday, and we've got Hindley Stags up against Kippax Welfare, Thatto Heath Crusaders up against Pilkington Rex.
Here we go again.
Ooh, bit of a local derby there as well. Can we not just resurrect the St Helens Cup and have them so as they play for that as well? Lee East at home against Wath Brow Hornets. Charleston Rovers rewarded with a tie against Folly Lane. Brighouse Rangers come into the competition. They'll face off against West Hull. Meanwhile, West Horton Lions, they've been rewarded with a home tie against Orrell St James. King Cross Park come into the comp, and they're hosting Wigan St Jude's. Woolston Rovers against Wigan St Pat's. That's an outstanding
good derby match there, isn't it? Yeah.
And as I say, all of those matches taking place on Saturday the 19th of April.
So there really is some nice ones in there, I must admit. And as I say, I like it when you get this mixture of teams that, some have played each other before, but some have, have never met, and that's great. Absolutely superb.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, Steve, that we've got a couple of guys who we're going to be running interviews with over the course of this podcast. Let's bring the first of those to you. So a little bit earlier in the week, I caught up with Bradd Crellin. He's the head coach of Millom, and in this interview we spoke about Millom's Division 3 preparations, hopes for the season, and asked him about his time back at the club. Okay, so here on the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show, we're going to keep up the looking forward to the 2025 National Conference League season. I'm delighted to be joined by Bradd Crellin on the other end of the line. So, Brad, he's the head coach of Millom. Great to have you on the show, Brad. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah, really good, especially after the weekend's result. We played in the local cup, the Barton Townley Cup. Which is a Barrow district. We managed to get a win over Barrow Island, so we're still on a high from that.
Tell me a little bit about the Barton Townley. It's a competition that we've read results out on the show for a few years, but I'll be honest, I don't know that much about it.
Yeah, so it's basically the local Barrow district cup. It's like the biggest one in the local area, and obviously Millom have competed in it for years. I was lucky enough to win it as a player on 2 occasions back in, a while ago now. I think it's 2007, 2008. So it's pretty prestigious cup in our area. It's it is the cup that all the local clubs want to win, and we sort of set that as one of our priorities of the season. We won it last year against Ulverston. It was a tough game. They had a couple of Aussies playing, actually, with decent players. And it was a proper cup final, so we managed to get the win there. But first round this year, we had Barrow Island, which was always going to be a tough ask. But yeah, the lads stood up, and especially with a few lads, and our captain as well, he was away in Vegas watching the Super League NRL games. So I think we had 12 unavailable at the weekend.
Wow, so that's a real decent dig, isn't it, from you guys?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think Barrow Island were pretty much full strength as well. We had to give a couple of young lads their debuts as well. Jack Barker, he's only gone 17. He played 80 minutes at hooker and got man of the match, set up a nice try, and yeah, it was pleasing to see.
Excellent. I mean, I think that's something that, looking at Millom over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, you've never been scared to throw the youngsters in, and in a way that goes both for you and against you, isn't it? Because usually that maybe attracts professional interest to these guys as well.
Yeah, it definitely does with Millom, because like you say, we're stuck out on our own really, so we don't get a lot of players from out of town, so we're all homegrown and local kids, and the young lads that come through always do a great job, and you can guarantee the season after they've made the debuts, there's pro clubs like the likes of Barrow, and well, this year Whitehaven and Workington they've took 5 altogether. So yeah, there's always pro clubs sniffing around, and obviously me playing pro, I did 13 years at pro, I'm not going to stop any kid taking an opportunity, so it's just we've got to do the best we can with them in the time that we have them, and then hopefully when they do make that step up, they can make a bit of a name for themselves.
Tell us a little bit about your coaching journey then. You mentioned there about having a long stint as a pro player, but when did you sort of get the coaching bug?
It's always been in the back of my mind. I had I'd say I had a bit of a plan in my head, sort of thing. As I'll retire at, I was going to say 35. I was unfortunate that I had to finish at 32 through a few head injuries. Luckily enough, I managed to do a season for Millom year before last. But like I say, I had this bit of a plan in my head. So I jumped on board with Millom 4 years ago, helping Tom Sibley out just as and when I was still playing at Barra. And then I got a bit more of a bug when I started playing for Millom again. Year before last, and I was sort of assistant coach there, and Tom Sibley said it was time for him to step down, so I thought I'll throw my hat in the ring. I've learned a little bit while I was with Tomo. It's obviously a lot different to the pro setup. You're not sure how many he's going to turn up at training and stuff, so that was a big learning curve for me. But yeah, and then I took the head coach opportunity last year. We didn't do too bad. We got relegated in the end. But it was one of them. We were 7th. We were sat in 7th. Went to Pilks away, last game of the season, and I think first half time we were 18-0 up, and at that point we were sat in the playoffs, and we ended up getting beat something like 24-18, and Barrow Island won, Ellenborough won, and unfortunately that relegated us. So it was a tough season to take as my first one as head coach, but I've learned quite a bit. And we've got off to a pretty positive start this year with the drawing against Egremont 2 weeks ago in a friendly. That was a big impression on us all, to be honest. We put a great performance out against a strong Egremont side who have just been relegated from Premier Division, so they're Div 1 now. And then we took that them positives into last week's the weekend's game against Barrow Island, and like I say, with the amount of lads we had missing and young lads stepping up, we sort of carried on that same level and managed to get a win. So yeah, so far this year, coaching's gone pretty well.
I'll touch wood at this point, because it can all change, can't it? As you know full well. But I'm just thinking, because I mean, like you must get loads of sort of excuses, excuse is probably a harsh word, isn't it? But reasons, shall we say, that players put forward why they're unavailable and they can't play. And I didn't have Vegas on my bingo card so early in the season, to be honest.
No, to be honest, you can call them excuses. I tell them that they're making excuses, mind. There might be valid reasons sometimes, but when someone comes and says, oh, I've got get my hair cut at 6:30, so I can't make training, stuff like that, you hear some belters, to be honest, throughout the season. And
did you not just say, we'll get the clippers, you just turn up for training, that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no hair now, and I obviously do my own, so I can do them if they want it done, but I'm not sure they want the same hairstyle as me, that's all. So, but yeah, you do hear some belters throughout the season, and that's one of the biggest things I've learned from coming from the pro game back to the amateur game. Obviously, when you're training in that pro game, everyone's turning up and working hard for each other, but some nights you turn up down Millom and you've maybe got 8, 10, maybe 12 players, and you've planned a session for 20 plus. So you've got to think on your feet and change it a little bit, but no, I'm enjoying it. It is really good, and all the lads this year are having a proper dig, and we're getting, like you say, we've got a lot of young uns coming through. We have got an 18s now and under 18s, so they're training with us as one big squad. And like I said before, young Jack Barker, he stepped up, made his first team open age debut, and there was a few more of them 18s lads made the club debut against Egremont the week before. So yeah, the excuses sort of you get used to dealing with, but it's still frustrating.
I mean, it's encouraging when you mention the amount of younger players coming through, because, at some clubs, it just seems when you get the team sheet sent through, it's the same names year after year after year after year after year. And whilst that might point to a good period of a club's history, you can't live off that, can you? So it's encouraging to hear from your point of view that you've got younger players that are stepping in. And, you mentioned before about losing 5 members of your squad. That could cripple some teams, but in your respect, you've gone, right, well, we've got these kids that are coming through. We're going to give them a go. Yeah,
definitely. Like you look at the teams that Millom have had over the last 4 years, and every year they've changed dramatically. That season I played, year before last, we had a great team, but you look at the team that we had last year, and obviously I'd finished playing then, took over the coaching role, and a few lads had finished because of other commitments and stuff, and then we had a completely different side. Well, we've got a completely different side again this year, but we always have them young lads coming through, and they're always willing to step up. And I'm not one of them people that's just going to throw a young lad on the wing. I'd rather chuck them on in their position and get them comfortable and get them used to the systems and stuff that we're playing to. So yeah, we always have that conveyor belt coming through. This crop that we've got this year have been coached by Lewis Lupton since they were under 8s, under 10s, and they've all come through together, and they're a great group. There's quite a few of them, and like I say, they've stepped up the last couple of weeks, a few of them, and hopefully they all stick together this year, and a few more of them will make the debut.
It's been great, actually, following some of the progress of some of the Millom lads. Obviously, when I was involved with doing like England Community Lions, got to know lads like Jack Newbegin and Rio McQuiston, who did really well, didn't they? They did really well for the club, and you've got to be so proud of seeing lads like that move on as well, haven't you?
Oh, definitely. Like you say, when I come back 3-4 years ago, them two stood out. Obviously, they're still young now, but they were obviously younger then, and they stood out. And unfortunately, at the start of last year, we lost them. They both went to Australia. Took an opportunity up in Australia. They were both playing out there, and they come back just before we played the Barton Townley final, actually, last year. So it was a massive boost for us. But yeah, it is great to see them all doing so well, and obviously we always get lads pushing for the Community Lions team, and them two, I think, for the younger lads as well, are two people to look up to. They've gone obviously from Millom to Community Lions, and both took an opportunity at Whitehaven now.
I was just thinking as well, because you mentioned about the changing of the teams and stuff. So that team that you played in, was it the Sarnakis you were playing out in the centre of the wing?
Yeah. Naki Salmaki and Jose Salmaki. So we got Naki at the start of that season. He's partners from Kirby, in fairness, which is a little village between us and Barrow.
Right.
And she'd been out travelling in New Zealand. And and then they'd moved back here for a time, and he was going to play for Askham, I think. But someone at Askham had suggested to him that you're probably a bit too good for Askham. I'm very friendly with the lads at Millom, so I'd recommend you going there. So anyways, we had this Tongan turn up one night, and he introduced himself. And immediate impressions were he's going to be a great player the size of him. And it turned out that Naki was, and then a few weeks down the line, we found out that his cousin played for Leicester Tigers Rugby Union. And then next thing we know, he comes training and signs on, and then they both played together. They were obviously cousins. And then a couple of weeks later, we found out that he was the nephew of Fufu Moi Moi. And then a couple of weeks later, Fufu Moi Moi came training, and they all played together. I think we played against, I think it was Lee East. So we had all three of them playing alongside. And obviously for the younger kids as well, for myself playing alongside Fufu Moi Moi, the younger kids, they were a bit starstruck, and it was a great day. But yeah, it was something for the club to remember for a long time, to be honest.
I mean, I know we've said this from an overseas point of view, but for me that says everything that I need to know about Millom. That says you're all about family, you're all about sticking together, and the fact that you can attract that. Well, you've got that happening, haven't you? You know, because was I right in thinking at some point over the last couple of years you've had like 3 or 4 sets of brothers playing in first team?
Yeah. So there's a couple of us still play. I'm not sure. Well, I'm guessing you will know the Kelly family from Millom, Gary Kelly.
Yeah.
His lads play. Ethan played in the pro game for a little bit. Well, there's Ethan, Dane and Adam. And Adam's finished now. He'll play when we are really short and help us out. But Dane and Ethan both played at the weekend. So, yeah, they're still playing. And then there's obviously Luptons. And, yeah, there's a fair few brothers that will play, and family members, cousins and stuff that will play this year as well. So, yeah, it is very... Obviously, like you said, we are a small town. We're stuck out on the coast at Millom, right out... Well... A lot of people call it what you think they'd maybe call it a bit of a, I don't really want to say it if it's going on a podcast, but the arsehole of Cumbria sort of thing. So,
I'm not having that anywhere in Cumbria as an arsehole, to be honest. You know, I love Cumbria.
No, we are just stuck out on our own, and we are a club that's very family orientated. And when we had Naki and Sal, his cousin, and Fui, the day that we had there was great. They all played, and they put on a Tongan hog roast in the beer garden, and it was unbelievable how many people turned out. Obviously, it was a great day, and like you say, it was very family orientated. Everyone looked after each other, and it was brilliant.
I hope you're going to say that they left the recipe for that hog roast, and you can maybe repeat it when the weather warms up.
Funnily enough, they did, and they left all the equipment and stuff, so it might happen again one day soon, hopefully.
I know over the last sort of couple of years as well, Millom as a club has celebrated milestones, haven't they, because, I mean, let's be honest, it's one of the oldest rugby league clubs as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's down as the oldest amateur rugby league club in the world, 150 years. It turned in 2023. So yeah, we celebrated it right throughout the year. So every game was dedicated to certain things that have happened throughout Millom's history and stuff. And we had all the kids, the youth system, all involved as mascots and stuff, and ball boys, and some of them were running the corner now and again and stuff. So yeah, for us to reach 150 years, one of the first clubs. I think the other club that celebrated the same year was maybe Eastmoor, I think, if I remember rightly. But yeah, it's a very proud town. Everyone's so proud of how old the club is, and obviously we carry it on, and hopefully it'll be even another 150 years.
Oh, that's certainly that'll be the plan, won't it? You know, I mean, neither me or you, unfortunately, will see that, but I'm looking forward to somebody reporting it at some point. You know, down the track, it'd be fantastic, that, wouldn't it?
No, it would, yeah, it would, definitely.
So looking ahead to sort of this season, I know obviously when we're chatting, we're probably 2-3 weeks away from the start of your year, really, aren't we? As far as national conference is concerned,
yeah.
What's your thoughts of sort of Division 3 from what you might have seen or heard, so far with how teams are going in sort of pre-season and stuff? What do you reckon?
To be honest, I know we were in it the year before last. We obviously got promoted into Div 2, but obviously with us being back in Div 3 this year, it's sort of hard to say, because obviously we've got the Milfords, and obviously Mighton have come down with us, and Saddleworth have come down. So, and Islington done really well last year, and I think it is going to be a tough division. The only sort of thing I noticed last year when we were playing Div 2 was there's a lot more teams that are on sort of a level playing field. The year before last, when we did get promoted, we sort of had, like, there was us at Oldham St Anne's, Lee East, all doing well at the top, and then you had like a bit of a gap. But looking at everyone else's squad, it's all going to be on the same sort of level playing field, I think. So I think it's going to be a tough one to call. I think it is going to be a real tough year, but it's one that we're preparing for quite well. Obviously Keighley Albion have come in, and I think I read last week that they've got something like 64 signed on players. So they're going to be gunning for promotion, I'd imagine. So we're just going to take it as it comes, one game at a time, and hopefully tick them all off, and at the end of the year we're up there fighting for promotion.
I always think it's really interesting, isn't it? You know, and certainly you in a way you don't know what you're going to get in the third division of National Conference, because you've always got somebody coming in, and there's been examples in the past, hasn't there, of teams that have come in and just steamrolled the way through, and some of those clubs are now playing in the Premier League, you know, so yeah. You don't quite know what you're going to expect, but I don't know whether this is just me, you know, coming at it from an NCL point of view, but I think that most of the divisions, they're wide open this year, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, definitely. Especially the Cumbrian clubs. You look at the amount of lads that have signed professional, obviously not just from Millom, but Wath Brow have lost a couple, Hensingham have lost a couple, Kells have lost a few. So you don't know, obviously, well, I'm not too sure on what their younger lads are. I imagine they're pretty decent kids, especially the likes of Wath Brow and Kells. So yeah, I'd imagine every division's going to be pretty interesting this year, and I don't think there's any out-and-out favourites. So yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting year, right the way through, from Division 3 right through to the Premier Division. But like I say, it's one we're really looking forward to, and we've got them young kids ready to step up when they're going to be needed, and there's not, I don't think there's one that won't look out of place, to be honest.
Well, I wish you all the best, you know, ahead of the season. I think it's going to be a cracker, like we've just said, and it all gets underway with you at home to Milford, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're on to Milford on the 22nd, so we've got a couple of weekends off now. We did try and pencil in another friendly for this coming weekend, but obviously I think the Premier Division start this week, so it's all getting going now. So obviously the clubs had stuff organised, so we're going to have 2 weekends off. Look after the lads this week after they've had 2 tough weekends in Segment of Barrow Island, and then hopefully start preparing next week for the game that's going to be in 2 weeks' time against Milford at home.
Every tackle, every try, every scrum. Green Cooling is proud to be part of the Community Rugby League family.
Really enjoyed having a chat there with Bradd Crellin. What a fantastic fella, and it was really interesting hearing about, because I remember us chatting at some length about the brotherhoods, shall we say, what was happening there, and all the family connections with Millom. I know that we made a big thing, as did the rest of Community Rugby League, I suppose, at the time when Fufu Moi went down playing there. Yeah. But they've had so many brothers and so many relations that have been playing for them over a good number of years. Yeah. And that just continues, doesn't it? And it's what clubs are built on. Yeah, and certainly up in Cumbria, that it's you know, you've only got to look at some of the professional players that have played over the years, and how many, you know, lines of brothers that have sort of gone on to play professionally. So that doesn't surprise me. I remember the Hog Roast story from a couple of seasons back about Fufu Mo. But that's great, isn't it? Because they've bought into, as Islanders, they've bought into that community spirit, because they're used to that. That's their values and how things are over there in sort of New Zealand, the Pacific Islands. And it was also good hearing his thoughts for the forthcoming Division 3 season as well, because I'm with him. It just feels like it's so open this year, doesn't it? I mean, in the last few years, there's been teams that have basically they've been heads and shoulders above the others, haven't they, in the division? But I don't get that feeling these days.
No, and it's so easy for everybody to say, their ambition for the season is to get in the playoffs, which is understandable. That's what you've got to set. That has got to be. But then, in the back of your mind, you've got to have, be realistic about, haven't you? You know what I mean? And I know we get the same old thing that comes out of one game at a time, but logically speaking, if you approach it that way, that's when you get a good idea of where you are as a team. Same as you say, you get so many coming down, you get new people coming in who you don't, sort of know about easily. So you've got to be worried, you've got to be on your mettle there. And as we've said in the past, in a lot of these divisions, you lose a couple of games and you're down there in the mire, fighting and up against relegation. Then you win a couple of games, string a little bit of a run together, and suddenly, hang on, we're in the playoff zones here. That's the beauty of it. Nobody's really out of it unless they're sort of going downhill from day one, as it were. But really looking forward to it. And cracking interview there. Sounds a great blog.
Yeah, so that's Millom looking to make their own mark back on Division 3 of the National Conference this season. Right, let's switch tacts, shall we? Because as Brad said in that interview, the Premier Division and Division 2 as well, or much of Division 2 is getting underway this coming weekend. We'll have a bit more of a chat about what we feel about what might be happening and have a good look around the divisions. But it would be remiss of us not to introduce our second guest of the evening, and he's quickly becoming an old friend of the show, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's Ryan Steen from West Hull, and in this chat we talked about the Challenge Cup experience against St Helens and the thoughts on facing Wath Brow Hornets in this weekend's National Conference League Premier Division opener. Okay, so here on the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show, we love looking forward to the games coming up. And finally, we can say it's the start of the National Conference League season this coming weekend. And I was going through my list of people of who to speak to, and I thought there's only one guy that can preview what I think is probably the standout tie of the first round of fixtures. It's none other than Ryan Steen, the new man in charge at West Hull. Ryan, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks, Dave. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Was that a big enough build-up? I know that you've had media commitments and all sorts over the last few weeks, haven't you, mate?
Yeah, that was more than enough, mate. More than enough.
So we've finally ticked down those days, and we're just a few days ahead of when you're coming up against Wath Brow. In a lot of ways, you couldn't ask for a sterner start to the season, could you?
No. It's always tough going to any Cumbrian side, and even more so Wath Brow. I think they've been the top Cumbrian side for the last 15 years possibly since I've been playing against them. And every time we go there, even when we have got a good result, they're always tough games. So I'm expecting none other on Saturday.
I suppose in some ways, is this the big trip that you want out of the way early doors, or are you quite happy to come up against Cumbrian sides whenever?
Yeah, it doesn't really faze me, to be honest. Obviously last year, I think out of the 3 Cumbrian trips, we actually won 2 and then we got beat at the back end of the year by Wath Brow. So, but the previous years before that, we have had some success on the road. They are sometimes your most dreaded trips because of the travel, but sometimes, most often not, they're the best trips as well coming home. Yeah. So after a good win, it's the best trips, to be honest.
I was going to say, because you really get to know each other, don't you, and get to enjoy each other's company on those sort of long trips as well.
Yeah, Yeah, you see how mad some of your players are. That's what you mean.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that, mate. Yeah. But yes, I have been around teams long enough to realise that. Yeah, they can get a bit mad, can't they? Those sort of trips. But I want to sort of like touch on sort of your preparation, because I suppose you've had to raise it every single week, haven't you? You know, from going into pre-season, from when you started it at the start of January, to then going on a really good cup run. That St Helens game, which, you know, to be honest, when you look at Saints' results so far this season, you know, you guys did really, really well against them, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I think when I've been looking at the teams, obviously, I think 21-man squad they've been putting out, I think there was 12 players every week who obviously played against us, who were making their 21-man squad. So, yeah, like you said, put a good side out against us. And, the boys were great that day. It just shows what a bit of desire and commitment and getting your effort areas right. That's a go along with in rugby, and that's what we did really well that day. And credit to the boys on that.
And certainly, you know, from an outsider's point looking in, I mean, I'm sure you were really proud of him as a coach. But, you know, from representing the National Conference League, you know, the league couldn't have asked for any better, could they? To be fair, I mean, it was a tremendous day, and you know, the fact that so many people decided to turn out for it as well, which I think shocked a lot of people as well. To be fair, didn't it?
Yeah, the attendance was, like you say, was expecting about close to 3,000, and you're looking at more towards 5 to 6. It was a bit of carnage there, but yeah, the support was great, and I've had a lot of messages from a lot of NCL coaches leading up to the game and in that week, which was nice as well, to obviously offer the support and wishing as well. So, so like you say, we think we did a good account for the amateur game, because I think sometimes we don't get enough credit the NCL Premier, especially all amateur, but obviously the NCL Premier itself, because there's some good quality players in there and some top teams. So yeah, it's nice to obviously compete against the top side like Saints, to be honest.
You touched on it. You know, this is obviously your first year in the head coach role. What have you learned about your players so far? Because you've played, you know, with a lot of these guys for the last 10 years, haven't you? Yeah,
it's been, like you say, it's a bit of a transition going from player to coach, but I respect there for them, and likewise, that's the impression I'm getting early doors. Like I was obviously challenged, well, not challenged as such, but a lot of noise, like can you coach your mates type thing. Are you too close to them? But I think it's only early days, but I think it's shown that I think you can. I think as long as a lot of time now with coaching, it's obviously man management of your players and having their respect and also being approachable, and I think I am that. So hopefully, as long as the boys are enjoying the environment, then they play the best rugby. So that's our challenge as a coaching group, to make sure training's enjoyable and obviously productive, and the lads are engaged. And then they'll turn out and obviously trying to perform.
And again, it feels like from an outsider's point looking in that you've already got that buy-in in spades.
Yeah, a lot of it. I'm sure a lot of the other NCL coaches say the same. It's just obviously getting your players to buy into stuff, and a lot of it with NCL, most teams that do well are the teams that are committed week in, week out. And I know a lot of teams obviously will say they're committed, but on a week-to-week basis, trying to get the same like proper players. Obviously, you get your stag does, and obviously you've got family commitments, which you can't argue with, because, like you say, everyone's got lives. But the more you can try and get that commitment off the lads, the more often than not, the better you're going to go.
And I suppose as well, what are you most looking forward to over the course of the season? You know, it all kicks off on Saturday, and you know it's the first round of 22, 23, 24 matches. You know, before you get into playoffs, hopefully, and you know then who knows what happens at that stage. Yeah,
like you say, it's first round. It's exciting. Everyone wants to get into it now. It's been a long time since last September. I think when we last played in the league itself. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, and hopefully the on a week-to-week basis, like you say, for the boys are committed on that side, and we'll be good to go.
And I've got to ask you as well, because you've had a really good result at the weekend as well in the BARLA National Cup. Is that something that, as a club, that you're always keen to be represented in?
Yeah. The club always want to represent the National Cup well. Previous years we obviously entered it as well to get some games under the belt, because as you probably know, a lot of other coach reference that it's quite hard to get pre-season friendlies. So we obviously do use these games now to have a look at lads, and we've had a few new boys come down from like ex-academy product kids from Rovers. There's a few lads who will come back who haven't played for a while, and so it's nice to obviously get to have a look at them as well and see where they're at and see whether they're ready to obviously play into the Premier, like in the tough places like your Fiddles and your Wath Brow. And obviously I'll find out more on the Saturday where someone plays that when we go to Wath Brow as well.
And that's really good, isn't it? That as a club you can attract back, players that have played at academy level or lads that have previously represented West Hull, and they want to come back.
Yeah, like I say, previously we've struggled a little bit. I'm sure a lot of the other clubs are the same, where a lot of lads go to the obviously professional environment, and for whatever reason it didn't work out, and sometimes they can lose a bit of interest in the game and have a bit of time out, and obviously go party and go travel, and obviously festivals, etc. There's a lot of distractions there these days for all these 18, 19-year-olds. But like you say, the more lads we can get back down and back to the community game, obviously the better. Because like you say, it is a tough league. It is obviously big commitment, but it's also enjoyable as well. Obviously playing with your mates, like you say, you can't beat it. In my eyes, anyhow.
And that's the thing that we've really always got to put forward, haven't we? It's like, come on, you can enjoy rugby league. I think to a certain extent when you get into the professional ranks, that you do lose that little bit of enjoyment factor, because there's other things that come into play, isn't there? You've got to be somewhere for training, you've got to do this, you've got so many different club commitments, and I suppose at community level, like you said, put it more simply, you're playing with your mates.
Yeah, like you say, a lot of these players, obviously young kids, they're playing on pressure every week, because obviously they potentially want to get obviously a full-time contract. So a lot of times these lads don't actually enjoy the academy rugby, because obviously they expect it. Obviously the pressure they put on themselves and expectations obviously of others sometimes gets obviously hard on some players. But like you say, I expect my players to buy in and be committed when we're training, but we do like to have a good laugh as well and make it enjoyable. And obviously making sure we get that right balance of when it's time to switch on and train hard and work hard, we do. And when it's obviously time to obviously have a bit of fun and banter, I'm all for it.
Ryan, it's been fantastic chatting to you, in a little bit more detail. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you go over the course of the season, because I get the feeling from the early results as well that, you can be a proud coach so far, and you're right at the start of this journey, aren't you? Yeah,
like you say, it's been good so far. It's been a proper whirlwind first couple of months, but it's like I said, reference to the players, it's really important we don't fall in love with ourselves. We haven't played a league game yet, so we have shown in these early games what we can do. So it's up to us to try and get that right on a weekly basis, and I'm sure we're always in good stead.
I wish you well for the season, Ryan, and I'll no doubt catch up with you in a few weeks' time, mate.
All right, yeah, no worries, Dave. Cheers.
Rugby League's secret weapon, Green Cooling, scores with the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show.
Great to hear from Ryan there, and it does sound like he's got everybody off the same hymn sheet, for want of picking up a well-trotted out phrase.
Yeah, and it's funny actually, because you hear that phrase, don't you? But like he was saying there, that everybody's got a buy-in, and I suppose that from the amateur game, that's a little bit more difficult, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if you've got somebody comes down and sort of doesn't like what you're doing, or it doesn't agree with what you're doing, they can easily leave to a certain extent. With a professional game, you've got to, you sort of once you've signed that contract, you're there, to a certain extent. You've got no choices, as it were. But here, if you're fostering a good environment, a good style of play, like you said, having a bit of a laugh and a joke as well, getting on, with other teammates, fostering that environment and getting people, that's where you get that buy-in and everybody, as you said, singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, so that's just one of the fixtures that is coming up this weekend in the Premier Division. Let's have a little run through what else is happening. So elsewhere in the Premier Division, I'm really looking forward to this one. Dewsbury Moor Maroons, brand new to the Premier Division. They're taking on Hunslet ARLFC. This is a Hunslet side that I'd imagine some people are writing off already. They've lost a couple of really decent players, haven't they, to the pro ranks? I'm thinking the McShanes at Dewsbury, for starters.
Yeah, it's going to be a changing season for Hunslet. It's going to be a soul-searching, I think, in some respects. I'm sure they'll approach it in the similar sort of way that they do with others. That it is, okay, let's get in that playoff spots at the end of the year, and we know we can we've got a record of doing it from there. But as you say, there's quite a few people missing now, and you've got some of these guys that Dewsbury Moor Maroons, they'll be well up for this, because I know, speaking to Christian the other week, they're really looking forward, sort of getting into this division and giving the best, and up against the premiers at the end of the day, because that's obviously what they are. They will. It's going to be a cracker.
Well, this is another reason for me, because everybody's going to be gunning for Hunslet.
Oh, yeah,
that team that's won it, and especially seeing as they've won it, a couple of times on the bounce now, haven't they? To be honest with you,
and I'm sure that the team talks every week from the teams that's playing them is going to be like what we've just said, where they're going to say, "Oh, these are not the team that once were. If we do our play to our game plan well enough, we can do this." And I'm sure that's going to be, sort of every single week. So yeah. It's going to be really tough for them.
Siddle were the best team in the competition from a weekly basis last year, weren't they? They finished top of the pile. They start with a home game up against Loch Lane. Loch Lane have brought a few different players in. Crucially, they're losing Chris Siddons come the end of the month, who's off to Australia. Yeah. We talked about that last week, didn't we? And I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing the result of this one as well, because I know the strengthening that Loch Lane have done.
Yeah, and the other side of that coin as well, we spoke about Siddle, for all they got beat in that final. Throughout the season, they were the team, weren't they? The results were absolutely blob on every single week. They had very few, sort of stutters or falters, and will they be able to kick on from that, from last season, and probably go a little step further? Loch Lane, I'm sure, will have other thoughts and try and put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Now, I make no apologies for the fact that I'm not going to say much more about this next fixture, other than it's Waterhead Warriors up against Rochdale Mayfield, a local derby. Waterhead back in the Premier Division after a long absence. And then, obviously, we've heard from a West Hull point of view what they're expecting when they're heading up to Wath Brow. Do you think he's still right there in what he was saying there? Ryan Steen, is it still the toughest place to go in Cumbria?
I think we can definitely say yeah, because we've sort of listened to so many different coaches when we've been doing this show who have always said going up there to Cumbria, like he said, anywhere up Cumbria, but Wath Brow, we knew a couple of seasons back that they were going to, anybody that was going to go up there, were really going to struggle. And as much as they faltered a little bit, I still think that it's a tough place.
I fancy him for the home form. Really do fancy him for the home form, because it is as you mentioned, a really tough place to go and get a result up there. And it will be interesting to see sort of just how they adapt into the season, because admittedly, like we heard Bradd Crellin talk about before, they're one of a number of Cumbrian sides that have lost a number of players both through to retirement and also to the semi-professional ranks as well at Whitehaven and Workington. So, there is players that are missing that have been regular fixtures in the side over a number of years. This for me is an intriguing one. This next one, West Bowling against Lee Miners Rangers. So on their day, Lee Miners Rangers can mix it with the best of them. Yeah. They can be a fantastic attacking side. However, their early results and team selections have pointed to the fact that they're a bit shy on halfbacks at the moment, or seem to be a bit shy in halfbacks, and I wonder whether that will count against them when you go into somewhere like West Bowling, who we've spoken in the past about them being an attacking team. They certainly can. They never have a problem scoring points, do you, West Bowling?
Yeah. This is a game, if it was the fixture was the other way around, and maybe later in the season when that fixture does come off, I'd like to go and see, because the two teams, I've seen Lee Miners Rangers a number of times, so like you say, we know to a certain extent what they've got on the table. West Bowling, we've not managed to catch them, but obviously we've always had an eye on them throughout the different seasons that we've been doing this, and that would intrigue me, that one, but it's hard to call that one, I think.
If that one's hard to call, what's your thoughts on this next one? Thatto Heath going over to York Acorn.
I just think the way the mindset that Thatto Crusaders seem to be in at the moment, and obviously with the acquisition of Kaisiani, they will take that Finch game on, and I'm sure they'll give a good account of themselves at York Acorn. But saying that, we know how well drilled York Acorn are at the moment, and again, they're at home. We know what it's like at home. It's a really well supported side, isn't it?
This is another one of those fixtures that for me has me wringing my hands and rubbing my hands together and going, oh, this will be a cracker.
Yeah, because we saw this fixture last year, didn't we? If I remember rightly,
we did over at Thatto, didn't we?
Yeah. And it was a really good game.
It was a good game for Thatto.
It was. If you remember that York Acorn,
they had a superb start, didn't they? Yeah. For the first 20 minutes, it looked like we were in for a game for all seasons, didn't it?
And then Thatto did it in the middle, and then York came, I think, a little bit towards the end. But that's. I think Crusaders there, because I've just got this feeling about they're in the right frame of mind this season.
Division 2 also gets underway as well, so we've got Clockface Miners up against Barrow Island. Changes are plenty still at Clockface. Barrow Island have managed to recruit a couple of form players to come back into the club, although I'm sure they'll be fizzing at getting knocked out of the Barton Townley.
Yeah, definitely. Clockface Miners, it's like one of those things, you don't know what you're going to get each season. Last season?
That was nearly a good Forrest Gump impression for starters. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. But it's true, you know what I mean? It's like, was it last season when they did the Challenge Cup run? We thought, these are going to go on and be absolutely superb, and it was a real struggle for him.
We know it's been a good pre-season, don't we, for Lee Cunningham and his team. I know that they've taken to social media and have been, very good actually in some of the stuff that they've been putting out. So it is going to be interesting to see how they go over the course of the year. Isn't it?
Yeah. What they've got to do, they've got to transfer that onto the rugby pitch, haven't they? At the end of the day. But yeah, and I remember going watching this game actually a couple of seasons ago at Clockface when they played each other. And if I'm not wrong, I think it was something like an 8-all draw or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could be in for a close encounter.
Could well be, yeah.
Driglington up against Ellenborough. So Driglington got promoted at the end of last season. Ellenborough managed to retain their spot in the division. What's your kind of thoughts on this one? Driglington under new stewardship this season with a couple of new coaches.
Yeah, at home as well, because I'm sure they'll have quite a good support there too. That's one again. It's all you can go off is the form, how they ended last season. Possibly Drig, they're just holding it at home.
we've spoken a lot about East Leeds, haven't we, and the squad that they've been putting together. How many ex-Hunslet players have they got now? But I believe that, a lot of those lads did actually start off in East Leeds. So, but before anybody sends me any hate mail or starts having a go at me,
that's Parkinson, by the way.
Up against, thanks, Steve. Up against Pilkington Rex, who Pilks. If you look at their form over the second half of last season, they were very good, weren't they?
Yeah.
Over the last sort of 10 weeks of the year. I wonder how they're going to go. They've obviously kicked off in a very positive fashion of Pilks. They've played against Eccles. Salford City Roosters.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, Salford City Roosters in a pre-season friendly, and then they played in the BARLA National Cup up against Keighley Albion. What's your thoughts on this one? I can't see much past an East Leeds win here because they've got the home form, and then the way that they dominated the previous division, and the class that they've brought back into the club as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if it was reversed, if it was at Pilks, then that'd probably be a lot closer. Obviously, Pilks managed to score 44 points, which shows that they know where the try line is. But I think I agree with you that I think East Leeds will come out victors at home.
Hull Dockers against Hensingham. It's a clash of the H's, isn't it, as far as Division 2 goes? But Dockers have suffered successive relegations virtually, so they've dropped like a stone over recent seasons, haven't they? There's a real chance for them to stabilise. Sort of within Division 2. We saw with how Pilk started last season that you can't take this division lightly at all. Hensingham, we also know that they have a young side. We also know that they've lost a couple of players to the pro ranks again. I don't know what to make of that game, to be honest. It sounds like it's going to be a cracker.
Yeah. My bet is that possibly Old Dockers not got to be complacent. That's the thing, like you said, and that will get them a win at home, I think. But when we've seen, didn't we see what Hensingham against? Was it Bentley?
Start of last season,
and that was a good side. So the thing is, they can travel. There's no if no buts about that. But I think, I said Old Dockers. If there's no complacency, I think they'll just run out winners.
And finally, Skirlaw are travelling over to Normanton Knights. They're the latest visitors to the graveyard.
Anybody who goes to the graveyard
they've got to be on the metal. They have got to be on the metal. I'm sure that Skirlaw will be digging around for any sort of possible footage of Woolston going there, won't they? Because they had to really wrestle and get over the top there, didn't they? So that should be a really, really interesting game. Then there's our game. Our game that we're going to. So on Saturday, via our 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Mixler channel, you'll be able to catch us. We'll be over at Waterhead against Rochdale Mayfield. I want to do a bit of a deeper dig into this one, if you don't mind, Steve.
No problem,
so this is a derby of some recognition. Over the last couple of years, both of these clubs, despite being in different divisions, they've not been strangers to each other because they played each other in the Oldham Standard Cup, and usually it's been the final. Okay. Now, over the last couple of years, Rochdale Mayfield have won the big game when it's counted in the Oldham Standard Cup. However, both of these sides, they're now on par. In previous years, you've had Waterhead who have been climbing through the divisions.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing separating them, is there?
Not at all. Not at all.
So, I was going to, I asked the question, what can we expect from both of these sides, and who are the players to watch? So, I think it's one with the weather, really, isn't it? I think if we get any sort of rain, I don't think there's rain in the forecast, but certainly open.
No, it looks like we've got a good day, actually.
It does look like we've got a good day, but if there is any rain in the forecast, then I would fancy Rochdale Mayfield, to get the job done there. If it's dry, I'm thinking Waterhead, potentially. Because, but having said that, I'm going to just name some of these players to watch out for. Okay, so from a Waterhead point of view, Jensen Hamilton, try scorer supreme. I think over the last 3 years he scored something like 70 tries.
Wow.
It's an amazing amount of tries that he's gone and scored in the last 3 seasons. Then there's the halfbacks. You've got Gareth Owen and you've got Keegan Brennan. Brennan, one of the top kickers that there is anywhere across National Conference League. Gareth Owen, who, although he's advancing in years, I'm sure he won't like me saying this because I'm sure he's only about 32, but he's got a lot of nous. So much nous, and a lot of people will probably think, oh, Gareth Owen, he had a long professional career, ended up playing at Oldham for a few years. Before that, he was on the books of Salford, where he played in Super League, and he also played for Sheffield Eagles as well. So he's a well-established player who knows his way around the rugby league field. Perhaps more renowned as a 9 back in the day, but let's be honest, halfback and 9 are quite interchangeable.
Very much.
So good players so far. Those are 3 players that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Then we've got Phil Joy. He is Mr. Engine.
Oh, he's a Duracell bunny, isn't he?
Oh,
at the end of the day, wind him up and watch him go.
Fantastic to watch. A superb prop forward in National Conference League. Arguably, he could still be playing Championship Rugby League for me.
I agree,
I think he is that good. And I think that he's an amazing player. At 9, they've ended up going. There's a bit of an injury around Perks, who represented the England Community Lions under 23s a couple of years ago. So it's meant that Jody Chandler, who's a youngster, has been filling in, and he's a good little player as well. Whilst I've not seen him in the games that I've seen him have the same sort of running game as Perks, he's a clever player around that 9 area whose game is still growing and developing, and it looks like and feels to me like it's developing every single week. And finally, the last player that I've picked out from the squad, and it was a hard one because there's other players that can also step forward, I think, but I've gone for the captain, Mitch Birch. Because I remember speaking to him after the Featherstone game and thinking, he'd be the sort of captain that I'd want. He'd be the sort of guy that'd inspire me. Because he could hardly speak afterwards, and he just used so much energy up in that game. But he's been around. He's been a part of that Waterhead side when they were knocking around at the bottom end of Division 3 of the National Conference. So if anybody personifies just the transformation that this club has gone through over the last few years, it's Mitch Birch, and I don't think there's anybody that's more deserving than him. And for me, it's massive that he gets the opportunity to now lead this club in the top division. Flipping it over to Rochdale Mayfield, they've also got a Quicksilver fullback, none other than Harry Sheridan. So he's a guy that I spoke about quite extensively a couple of seasons ago, if you remember, Steve.
Yes, I do.
Because it didn't matter what level he was playing at, he was scoring tries for fun. I think at one point he played across 3 different teams at Mayfield, and I think he had a couple of trial matches elsewhere. And he scored 40 tries in the season.
Wow.
So I don't think they lose anything, to be honest. And him and Jensen Hamilton getting the opportunity to go head to head at fullback, Quicksilver, the guys that are going to link play up, Harry Sheridan is one to watch.
So that's why let's hope that it is good weather on Saturday to see these guys. Hopefully get some firm ground and some breaks.
I talked up the Waterhead halfbacks. I've got 2 words for you from a Rochdale Mayfield point of view. Devlin Long. Over the last couple of years, that Aussie halfback has been absolutely brilliant. So I'm hoping that he's going to be playing. And he's a very clever player, so perhaps, won't take the defence on quite as much. You probably won't see him running to the line. He does a lot of his work beforehand. But there will come a time when he will take the defence on. And I get the feeling half the time defences aren't expecting it because they're that used to him shipping the ball on or doing something else. He's also a tremendous kicker of the ball as well.
Well, the thing is that is great when you've got that in your arsenal, and I think that you're going to set the line on, because that is, what you want in, sort of majority of halfbacks at the end of the day. Put a kicking game in with it, like you said, then you've got the full package there, haven't you?
I talked about players being interchangeable in the modern era, and Cole Connolly is one of those guys, so he could play hooker at the weekend for Rochdale Mayfield. I'm hoping that when I'm saying this, that they don't end up with half of these players not playing who we've mentioned now, because otherwise we'll be like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that?
But that's it, isn't it, Parky? You know what I mean? You got to develop players to come in and fill spots, like to cover all.
You do. We mentioned it with Jodie Chandler, didn't we? Coming in at 9. But I'm flipping it over, to Rochdale Mayfield, and Cole Connolly is one of these guys he's been there and done that. He's played in the reserve setup at Salford. He did. He's done a few matches with Cornwall, over the last couple of years. He's a clever player. I remember seeing him as a youngster playing for Lancashire in the old BARLA Tri-Series that they used to have.
Yeah.
Tremendous player. I saw him at the end of last season when they played against York Acorn in the playoffs. He was brilliant that day. Absolutely brilliant. Again, he was doing most of the goal kicking that day, but he was so sharp out of dummy half. It was untrue. They couldn't live with him.
Yeah.
And then finally, I mentioned about the experience of Mitch Birch. I'm going to go for the comparative youth of Ben Metcalf. So Ben was a player that I admired his determination and will to win. He was a guy that represented the England Community Lions last year over in Serbia. Tough as teak second row.
Yeah.
So you look at him, and I suppose comparatively speaking, perhaps not the biggest of blokes, So if we stood next to him, we'd be a little bit taller than him.
Yeah.
But by crikey, what a tackler!
Yeah.
What a workhorse! And again, I'm sort of like my appetite is whetted for the weekend here, Steve.
And that's it with those sorts of players, that you don't realise what they can do, because you've got to be careful there, because you'll end up targeting those players and come off second best at the end of the day. And you've looked at them and thought, that's the weakest link, let's go that way, and suddenly you find, my God, that's the hardest chain you're trying to get through, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
So it bodes well for an excellent match, doesn't it? Last time we were there, obviously, we were there and they were getting promoted. I think it was from the 3rd to the 2nd.
It's a couple of years since, isn't it?
Or 2nd to the 1st. One of the two was really well supported there, and I'm sure there's going to be another big crowd there on Saturday as well, with it being first games of the season.
It's good that I can actually mention as well who some of the referees are going to be.
Right, so excellent.
How good is this? See, you don't get this service every week, do you? But I'm looking at my inbox now, and Lucas Seal is the man in the middle of Dewsbury Moor Maroons against Hunslet. For Cyril and Loch Lane, it's Ollie Salmon. For Waterhead and Rochdale Mayfield, there's Freddie Lincoln. So he's a good young referee.
Yeah, I remember Freddie.
Really good young referee.
If I'm not wrong, when we saw him, he was refereeing one of the games at the finals, the NCL finals, a couple of years back.
Up at Wath Brow is Josh Pemberton. Tyler Topping is at West Bowling. Dan Frederick is at York Acorn. Liam Breeny is at Clockface Miners. Shay Harrison is at Driglington. Owen Taylor is at East Leeds. Logan Miles at Hull Dockers. Liam Grundy at Normanton. And is that a friendly?
You're not broker there. The Parky is actually having a breather.
No, I was having a breather. There's another fixture that slipped onto the list that I know we've not mentioned. So I'm thinking that this is a friendly. This is Alton Raiders against Bentley.
Right.
So Alton are Division 1.
Yeah.
Bentley are Division 3.
Yeah.
So that'll be, and Tom Bell is reffing that one. So that's the fixtures. That's our game, which you're going to be able to listen to on this very Mixler channel, by the way. Do look out for the social media post that is going to come. I've not done it yet, but it is going to appear over the next sort of few hours. So I can't wait. I think it's going to be a cracker.
I've been looking forward to this for a while now, Parky. I mean, I know it's one of the slightly broader out of our circle type of ones that we're going to venture to, and we've got a few like this that we're hopefully going to try and get out to. All I can say is if you're doing nothing on Saturday, get your headphones on, tune into Mixler, and listen to Mr. Parkinson and myself call this game.
We always mention a social media story, and usually it's something that's uplifting or something that somebody's doing. This one's got a slightly muted air about it, because we are reporting some really sad news as well from the world of rugby league. In Cliff Tamu, unfortunately, passed away a few days ago. So he was a match official. He was a coach, coached Lee Miners ladies for a couple of seasons, and he was genuinely one of the nicest people that you will ever meet in rugby league. And I think it's a mark of a man that there's been so many messages that have been put out there, so many posts that have come directly from clubs talking about his loss. It was something that really, really touched me, to be honest.
Yeah, because, I mean, you know, we always sort of look, and from a referee's point of view, they always are on the end of sort of negativity, aren't they? You know, so obviously the clubs that have come out and sort of have said what a loss this is unbelievable. The amount of clubs that have done that. As you say, a really well liked and respected guy.
I remember him being at Lee Miners for one particular game, and it was a game where he had a couple of touch judges actually.
That's a luxury, isn't it?
That's another talking point entirely, isn't it, Steve? But he had a couple of touch judges with him who were quite young touch judges, to be fair, and the touch line was getting quite boisterous against his touch judge. He actually stopped the game, went over, had a word with the touch line. I mean, the entire touch line. And he was like, I heard you barracking, you know, such and such a body. Be warned, if I hear any more, I'm sending you off. And he had no qualms in going over. The way that he handled that situation was a mastery, to be honest, in how you speak to people. And that's something that I will always remember Cliff for. You know, being able to handle and turn a situation like that, which, you know, could have blown up, couldn't it? You know, in some respects, had it been somebody else. So.
And we spoke about that and how volatile those situations can be. We've mentioned that in the past, so it's certainly yes.
But he approached it, and I tell you what, you didn't hear a peep out of that touchline for the rest of the game. I don't know how he managed it.
And it's nice the way that he supported his younger colleagues, isn't it?
That was just the mark of the man. A huge loss to rugby league. So this is ourselves here at the 13 Pro Community Rugby League remembering Cliff Tamu. Well, Steve, that's all that we've got for this week's episode. Thanks to our guests Bradd Crellin and Ryan Steen for their insights. Any final thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, it's going to be a brilliant opening weekend, Dave, by the looks of things. Looking forward to our commentary, as I said, that Waterhead Warriors do.
That's right. Don't forget to tune in for that one. It's live on Mixler. We'll see you later.
Every tackle, every try, every scrum. Green Cooling is proud to be part of the Community Rugby League family.